Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this midday bonus upload, a quick bonus to get us through until Saturday Nightmares live from New York. I hope to see you all there at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before we get into this bonus, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? Today's first New Mexico subscriber submission. Greetings, Jeff. I'm writing you today to start a correspondence about what I believe is an ongoing Dogman activity in southern New Mexico over the last year and a half. I apologize for taking so long to get back to you. This time of year always manages to kick my butt time-wise. I don't really know where to start, so I guess at the beginning would be good. Many years ago, I had a Dogman experience while I was still in high school. I accidentally discovered that you had narrated my experience while I was searching for information on Dogman encounters local to me. I'm the girl from the third encounter on your video, Dogman Encounters in Southwestern America, posted on March 6, 2018. I still live in southern New Mexico, although a fair bit away from where I had my personal encounter all those years ago. I actually live in Roswell, New Mexico now. Yeah, that Roswell. And have been here for a better part of the last 20 years. About a year and a half ago, a young lady got in contact with me over a strange set of occurrences that were happening at her house on the outskirts of town. For a couple of nights, she had been hearing a large animal climbing up the side of her home and clattering all over her roof. Now, New Mexico is still a pretty wild place, even close to town. So at first, she just assumed she had a large raccoon messing around. On the third night, however, things got really scary for her. Now, this woman is a nurse and lives alone and does not seem like the type to get spooked by ordinary animals. She said she was on her laptop late at night when she heard something clawing at her screen door, making it thump back and forth. Both the doors were locked from the inside because she was getting a little nervous with all of the noise at night. She said she put her laptop down and walked into the kitchen, flicked her porch light on so she could get a better look at whatever was messing around on her property. She only saw it for a moment before it dashed away, but that was long enough to scare her out of her wits and house for a full week before contacting me. She said that when she turned on the lights, she saw a large canine with patchy fur, strange legs, angrily tearing at her screen door with its hands and teeth. I asked her why she said hands at the time, and she said that it had toes too long to be anything but fingers. She said the fur was dark, but its skin was lighter and showed through all over its body. She estimated it to weigh at least 200 pounds, and, as seems to be the theme with what is being spotted down here, had back legs that were way too long and spindly. After helping this lady out, I put the feelers out. I kept my ears open for any other incidences that had or may occur. The second report I got was from a couple driving around late one night last summer. They were heading home from a movie and were driving through a part of town that is mostly industrial lots and open fields when they saw what they thought was a dog hunkered down on the side of the road. They slowed down, not wanting to hit it, as it was very close to the road, and got a very good look at it when it dashed off. They described it as having sickly long dark fur, weird wide shoulders, a strange gait because of its long back legs, and an almost human-looking short muzzle. They also described it as being very big, and were both still really upset when I talked with them just hours after their encounter. Now I need you to understand, the area where this couple saw this creature is well within city limits. It's not a highly populated area, but it is still within walking distance of a school, a convenience store, a bank, and a bar. I have 2 more incidences to write out to you. I'm very tired. I may save them for later this week, when I have a few more spoons. I will be in contact again, I promise. Until again. I need to contact this person because I have not heard back from them since. I do believe they are still in the community, but possibly, I'm not really sure if they are or not. I'm going to contact her and see if everything is okay, because that's an older subscriber submission. So today's second New Mexico subscriber submission. My cousin and I were traveling through Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was 1 a.m. Me and my cousin were just dicking around about how creepy the desert was at that time of the night. Next thing we knew, we saw something off in the distance. It was heading to our car at an alarming pace. It got right beside us and kept pace. We were going 70 miles an hour. It looked over and gave us this demonic smile, sped up and darted across the road. It was in our headlights for a couple of seconds. Within that couple of seconds, we caught a few details. It looked like a jackal from Egyptian lore, but with more muscle tone and fur to it, lest, say, we put the pedal to the metal and got out of there. Till we got to the next town, we then waited until sunrise to continue our trip. Today's third New Mexico subscriber encounter. Hey Jeff, back in 2005, I agreed to house sit for a week for a friend who lived in a small town in Chimayo, New Mexico. I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so this was going to be a fun week for me and my dogs, as they could run and play with her dogs on a beautiful 5 acres of land. I still had to commute from Santa Fe for my job, but that was no problem for me. My experience happened on a Wednesday fall morning on my way to work. In order to get to work on time, I had to leave very early. It was not dark, and the sun had not set in yet, but I had a good visual of my surroundings. I was driving my truck down the side dirt road from her house that met with a main paved road. As I was approaching the stop sign, I looked across the main road at a big pasture. I immediately noticed a pack of dogs. In the middle of them was this ginormous dog. They were eating something. They didn't notice me whatsoever. Suddenly, I felt this dread come over me. I made sure my truck doors were locked. I couldn't move. That's when I noticed the haunch shoulders on this beast and how scary and ugly it was. It resembled a hyena, but not quite, because the head looked like a wolf. It was on all fours. Driving the long drive to Santa Fe, I tried to understand what I saw. I finally convinced myself that what I saw was just an inbred dog. When I got to work, I was not my usual chatty self. When approached by several coworkers if something was wrong, I told them what I had seen and how scared I felt. But I was met with laughter and pats on the back. Again, I conceived myself that I was making a big deal over a freak of nature. When I arrived back at my friend's house after work, it was already dark. I immediately felt this terrible dread, remembering that ugly beast that I saw. Luckily, my dogs, as well as her dogs, greeted me. I got out of my truck and made a mad dash to her house. I closed all the curtains and made sure all the doors were locked. The next morning, on my way to work, as I was approaching my truck, I felt an overpowering sense of dread again. Her house was next to an irrigation ditch, as most of them are in this town. They're riddled with irrigation ditches, as this town has a lot of farming. It hit me that this beast could come from the irrigation ditch and easily snatch me up, being a small female. I got back into the house, got all the dogs back in, and called in sick. I waited until later that morning to get the dogs and her dogs out of there and headed back to Santa Fe to my place. When my friend returned, she was really put off with me, even to the point of shaming me when I told her why I left her place and could not bring her dogs back. I understood her feelings, as she had not seen this monster. My terrible experience with the Dogman left our friendship fractured. Several months later, I received a call from her. She told me that she had moved back to California to be close to her family. I was shocked because she really loved Chimayo, New Mexico. She told me that she had encountered the Dogman in an irrigation ditch next to her home. Today's fourth New Mexico subscriber submission. Hey Jeff, I can tell you only one story of a werewolf in White Mountains. A buddy of mine, he's an Apache in Navajo descent. His dad told us he was traveling from the White Mountains late midnight hours, traveling slow on the winding roads that weave through the thickly forested White Mountains in a pickup truck. He heard something bang on the back of the bed of his truck. He switched on the cargo light and was staring at what he called a werewolf-type creature. He freaked out, nearly going off the road. In his attempt to correct the truck swerving, the creature was thrown out onto the roadside. He's a man of integrity. He was not one to BS anyone. Some Apache friends I have had confirmed the history of this creature dating way back. A creature of half man, half wolf in appearance. There is also a Bigfoot-type creature as well seen by the Apache, and also that live among the waterways on the Navajo Nation. The creatures in that religion are said to be tall, lanky, shiny, and not so thick, shaggy hair. I know a Navajo woman whose family told her of some that live around Farmington, New Mexico, along the remote small creeks that flow year-round. I have not seen any of these creatures. I have experienced hauntings on my property in the remote region of South and the Petrified Forest. There is Anasazi ruins everywhere there. Pottery, lying around everywhere, arrowheads, all kinds of artifacts. I've watched ghostly orbs floating around the main ruin one night. In particular, 100 or so little white glowing round balls of light dancing on the hilltop where the large ruin site sits. I moved on top of the hill in the last few years of me being on the property, which I've lived on for over half my life. I had respect not to move on the hilltop for many, many years. I had gotten a bigger trailer, and the only place flat enough for it, it was very long, was on the hilltop aside of where the main ruin site was. I feel I broke a sacred promise I made to myself and moved up there, and our home became very haunted, noises and things that go bump in the night. There was strong energy. There they could touch me many times. Most of the paranormal activity occurred after 1 a.m. till just before dawn. Believe it or not, you actually become used to it and live with it. There was a solar light that ended up under the trailer. It stayed there for years. It was always on. That little light never went out, even in the frigid winter. Not ever seeing daylight to charge that battery, but nonetheless, that little light never went dark. It was being energized from the ground. My son and I lived there. I became very sick, and I still am sick. I moved to town about a year ago and sold my property that I owned for over 26 years. I paid $14,000 for the land, and I just sold for $5,000. The spirit of the Anasazi not only can torment you while awake, but can haunt your dreams with very dark things. I lived at peace for many, many years out there, being blessed with gifts from the spirit world until I broke my pack and moved on sacred ground. There is too much to tell you about. I cannot type that much, Jeff. There is dark things here, gorgeous, beautiful country as well. One needs to be careful what they touch or where they go. It can cost you a life, and it is real as you and me. Myself and a friend entered a haunted place of Anasazi. I left tobacco offerings while he scoffed at what I was doing. This 26-year-old died of mysterious causes not long after that night. I am sorry, what I have to say tonight is not exciting, but it's the truth. I will stay in touch with you if that's cool. Take care, your friend and avid listener, WR. Today's final New Mexico subscriber submission. Back in July of 2009, my friend Kelly reached out to me via email, inviting me over to her house that her and her husband, Don, had just moved into to Tesuque, New Mexico. They used to live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but had been looking for a house to rent that also had horse stables on the property. They used to boarder their 3 horses at a horse boarding facility in Santa Fe. Now, the both of them can have their horses close by. We made plans for me to arrive with my 2 dogs, a large German Shepherd mix and my 6-month-old Chow puppy mix, Saturday evening, and spend the night. The plan was that we get up early, saddle up on the horses, and do some trail riding with the dogs. I was looking forward to the adventure. On my way out to Santa Fe that Saturday evening, I stopped at a grocery mart and picked up a rotisserie chicken to make fajitas with for dinner. I was enjoying the scenery until I passed this house that had a bunch of naked dolls with messy hair leaning against the chain-link fence surrounding the house in a rather grotesque poses. It was very creepy. When I arrived at their home, as I was pulling into their driveway, I suddenly felt like something was off. I had an overwhelming desire to back out and leave when I saw my friend at the door waving at me. As I walked up to the front door with my gang and the rotisserie chicken in my arms, the thought crossed my mind that I probably was just creeped out from seeing those dolls. While we all hugged, I noticed how tired and stressed Don and Kelly looked. I was led into the kitchen to put the rotisserie chicken on the counter before I was given a grand tour. During the tour, I could not help but notice that their otherwise friendly and playful dogs were slinking around with their tails between their legs. My dogs were quickly doing the same. After the tour, Don suggested that we get going on the fajitas as the smell of the chicken was making him hungry. During dinner, I mentioned that I was getting nervous vibes from both of them and the dogs. I wanted to know if something was wrong. They proceeded to tell me that they think that they have something demonic in their house. They've been hearing it since they had moved in. They explained to me that they could hear this evil laugh at night. Wow, not what I expected to hear. After cleaning up, we went into the living room. No sooner than I sat down on the sofa, all the dogs joined me and huddled close to me. I was talking to Don and Kelly, who were each sitting in separate recliners across from me, when I noticed a dark mass slowly go across the wall behind them, and I gasped. The dogs noticed it as well, causing the pup on my lap to turn around and bury a head into my arm. She was shivering like a leaf. She was very scared. They both stood up and turned around and saw the black mass on the wall moving slowly back and forth. Kelly screamed loudly and jumped on the sofa next to me. Don stood frozen. The black mass slowly morphed into a silhouette of a classic witch with a hat, large crooked nose, pointed chin. Then it started to cackle. Needless to say, we were scared. I suggested we all leave and go back to my place. I offered for them to stay until they worked out a solution to this very scary problem. Luckily for them, the apartment they moved out of was still available, so they were able to move out quickly from that house with help of myself and several other friends. Of interest, while moving them out, a neighbor came over and asked Don if the reason he was moving out was due to the witch on the wall in the living room. As soon as Don said yeah, the neighbor told us that the previous owner of the home was a lady that claimed to be a witch. She started to dabble with the dark side. At some point, it was too much for her, so she took her own life in the living room. Her family tried to sell the house, but it would not sell. They decided to rent it instead. He said that nobody ever stays long after they see the silhouette of the witch on the wall.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed these New Mexico subscriber Dogman experiences as much as I enjoyed sharing them with you. I hope to see you all tonight at the live stream, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday Nightmares, live from New York. The experience about the Jackal, that really resonates with me because that Dogman resembles what I saw, similar to what I saw. And I've often wondered why what I saw didn't look like this underworld-like Dogman and resembled this very interesting looking creature. It did. It had the head of a jackal, but its body was very tall, athletic looking, but not muscular, not like a bodybuilder. More like a very athletic or strong basketball player or kind of sprinter. It looked very fast, it looked agile, and it looked dangerous. Anyway, thank you once again for supporting the channel. Your support is, after all, what continues this channel to grow and go. And honestly, what makes it a place for people to want to share their experiences, ideas, and theories without judgment or ridicule. Thank you. That's all on you guys. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they're dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.